So this is going to be a bit of a unique presentation because the entire thing, except for the first 30 seconds, is all live demos. Bear with me if there are more technical glitches, but here we go. So you might be wondering what that was about. Um, I'm open sourcing a project I'm calling AutoMobile because mobile automation. And my name is Jason Pearson, and I'm an engineer at Zillow. Uh, so my background is in back-end web, full stack, and then I spent a decade at Hinge building the Android app and mentoring people there. And then I took a year to do AI startup stuff, and now I find myself at Zillow, where I'm doing mobile backend and build performance and AI tooling. So, up until now, UI testing is one of two things. It's either manual or automated. And when I say automated, I mean there's not someone at the device touching it. It's automated in the sense of that. But still, someone has to hand write that test, right? So AutoMobile is a set of tools for automating the authoring and execution of UI testing. It includes an MCP server that doubles as a CLI tool, Kotlin test authoring clicked app, CLI tool as well, a custom JUnit runner, and as of 4 a.m. this morning, an accessibility service to expose data faster. It works on any Android app in debug or production. You can download stuff from the Play Store today, run AutoMobile against it, and it will work. And I'm going to show you some examples. It directly detects and uses Android platform tools. It runs as a simple JVM test. So it drops right into any codebase. It indexes and understands your project source code. So it knows where to put tests, and it can write tests for you. So this part is just the origin story of how I came up with the idea and how I got going. First of all, almost unrelated to this, but I promise I'll get back to it, Flipper got deprecated in 2024. Almost no one really knew about it until all of a sudden we realized there were no new binaries being put out. It's a thing, and it's a great debugging tool. I got tasked with both figuring out Flipper as well as figuring out open source AI tooling for UI testing. And I didn't find what I was looking for when I looked around in open source. Most MCP servers are just thin wrappers. MCP is a model context protocol. There are a bunch of other talks that have talked way more deeply about that. I'm not going to get in depth on model context protocol. You can talk to me after if you want to go into it. But basically, it's how AI agents can use tools to deterministically do tasks. And most of those MCPs would do screenshot, tap, screenshot, swipe, like very typical interactions. And I was thinking to myself, what if we made the tools the way we navigate mobile devices? We could open recent apps by swiping up from the bottom edge, or tap the recent apps button in hardware. We look at notifications by swiping down. We don't just do some random roboelectric shadow thing as a human being. That's how we navigate, and we navigate really fast, actually, usually faster than espresso test goes. We also do selecting text by double tapping, select all, cut, or press the delete key, all rapid operations. And what if I provided an AI agent with the exact relevant context that it needs? So that's how I came up with this general system. The AI agent, the MCP server, and the Android device, where on every single interaction, there's an observation request. We execute a UI dump of some kind. We get that state data back. We do the observation, and then we do an interaction command. And this is all one tool call, not multiple separate ones. And sometimes there are multiple interactions that you can do off of one observation, just like a human does. You don't look at the screen, tap to see, do you have focus on a text field, and then observe that the keyboard comes up. You just start typing. So what if we just did that? I leveraged Firebender and Claude, the latest models, in order to quickly iterate, and I had some early success in demos. First one we're going to do is the clock app, and what this is going to do is that test that was recorded using this tool is now going to run on this device, and wow, this is a real live demo because I've never tested it in landscape before. So it just set that alarm and then came back, and now I'm back in control. I quickly iterated to explore all of Zillow's app, which is a pretty complex app with a million lines of code, hundreds of screens, tons of complex UI, form fields, web views, Google Maps, you name it, Zillow has it somewhere. So this is a demo of this is going to run the 3D home navigation and tour booking demo, where we go through UI that is not typical at all. There aren't typical things to look for, like IDs and text. That should have... Oh. It helps when it compiles, and I don't press random keys. So what it's doing is typing in some search text, finding the first search result, tapping on that, navigating to that. It's looking for 3D home. It sees that text in that first top field. I do have a scroll function for it to find stuff, but I just wanted this to be faster because I have a lot of stuff to cover. It's going to move through this home and swipe through the screen. I don't yet have it working in the web view version of this, where it's even more exploratory, or the 3D drone version, but that is going to happen. It's going to go through the different parts of the house, go back to the front yard, and it's going to look around and then go to photos and request a tour. At this point, this is back in normal, like, compose ID land. However, some of these UIs are really not typical at all. These things are dynamic and laid out. In order to write a UI test like this without AI doing the exploration and then using a tool like this to record it and replay it, it would be prohibitively expensive without my tool, and it would be impossible without the agentic part. So we're just going to toss out all of our tests and do this. I also decided to pursue open source at this point because I realized I had something pretty magical on my hands, and I wanted to share it with the world and all of you. Now let's talk about some of the optimizations and automations that I did. Turns out ADB view hierarchy dumps are extraordinarily slow. It's the slowest part of everything I try to automate. So the first thing I did was p-hash and fuzzy matching. So p-hash, you take a screenshot and you reduce it to like a 9x9 pixel image in grayscale, and then you take a hash of that, and then you can do hash lookups against any other screenshots you've taken recently, like the past 1,000, and see, which one is the closest match, and which one's a good candidate to compare. Then you do pixel matching, kind of like exactly what paparazzi does, with some percentage difference that you're looking for to be within. And then you pick the newest one of that, and then I can point to the cached view hierarchy that I took at the time. That left me with this system design, where I would observe, get that screenshot d-hash. If I get a hash match, pixel match, 99.8%, great. It's probably what I was looking at. Otherwise, we do a new dump, put that in the cache. So that was 85% faster. We went from 2 seconds down to about 228, but sometimes it would be 400 milliseconds. And I was like, I want this to be faster. So it worked, and it worked great for replay. But if you were going to always be slow in exploration, then the amount of time between iterations of the AI doing the interaction and then observing means that there's fewer capabilities that I can create. So I want to fix that. And then this morning I created an accessibility service. So this is the new system. It checks if my accessibility service is installed, and is it running, and because you have to like navigate into the system UI in order to do that permission. Funny enough, I can automate that, and then I just pull over a file that is constantly writing of the view hierarchy. It's running right now on my phone. That's wrong. It's like 99% faster. Queries are 50 milliseconds now. Along the way, while I was automating UI testing, I decided to automate environment setup. This was my original problem, where which emulator do I use, which device, and do I have one? So I would try to find a session that I was logging, because I wanted to be able to support multiple sessions of emulators at once. I'd find the active device. Okay, cool, I can use it. Or there's no device at all. Okay, go find an AVD, create the AVD, get the device session. But like, what if I didn't have an AVD? What if I didn't have AVD manager? What if I didn't even have command line tools? So then I automated all of that, the detection and installation of all Android platform tools and command line tools, according to how we all have scripted the installation of it in various DevOps, DevX situations across teams for the past decade. Did I get it carried away? Yes, but now it's better, and maybe we could all just throw away all those bash scripts that we've all written over years to automate this stuff, because now it just works in a way that we can actually roll out updates to how we do these updates, potentially. Source mapping. This was a fun idea that I got. I'm borrowing it from React DevTools. I found this command, ADB shell dump sys window windows, and it spits out some garbage, but it's tasty garbage. If you look right here, that is the application ID and then the full package to the main activity. If I've got that, I know I can find the exact source code for main activity as long as I have access to the source code, and I have it. So that's easy. Next, I found the fragment through approximate package, just like best guess. And then I found the composables. And generally the way I'm searching is trying to find the root common module of the plurality of all the composables I'm observing, and then starting search from there. I always find everything, but to try to get this done in less than a second. Every time I'm building the index for whatever I'm exploring, I wanted to make it as fast as possible and use rip grip. So that's how that works under the hood. I mentioned in the agenda that I do have some tips about MCP dev workflow, and this was a pretty big one. When I was first iterating, I would make a code change, rebuild the MCP server, and then do an npm install, and then tail some logs. And that was awful because you would have to rebind, rehost everything every single time, and it was guesswork, like what was running on the server versus like what I just coded. And I wanted hot reload because we all have solved that over every single platform for years. Like we're getting there with Compose, but like web dev, I had that like 12 years ago. So I'm going to decouple the architecture. Sorry that this is hard to read, so I'll zoom in a little bit. So the way this works is you use the npm package MCP remote so that your client can communicate over SDIO, and then you have the transport layer to separate out the requirement to have a PID process that is connected to your server. That way you can have like reconnect. So you request the same exact set of tools as SDIO, you respond with it, you relay through MCP remote all the way back to the client. And if you're doing this with Node, this is the wonderfully long and complex command that you can write once and then never look at again. Don't worry, these slides are already online, and I'll link you to them later. This is what it looks like when I have Firebender open and I'm doing my local MCP dev workflow. You can kind of see down there. I can't zoom in on this one, but it just says localhost port 9000. So now we're at test authoring and execution. This is what a plan looks like. It looks very similar to Maestro. It's definitely an inspiration. And this was what the contents of the clock app test was. It was just tap, 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 looking at IDs and text. I have some smart text searching to look for, even though I'm just saying 6, it is what's the bigger font? Where is it in the view hierarchy? What is the thing that the user is probably trying to look at through heuristics inside the MCP server? I also have some other ideas I want to try out, but they're not there today. I mentioned there's JUnit Runner. That is a simple Android library with a JUnit 4 prioritized, JUnit 5 compatibility. Android is probably just going to be on JUnit 4 forever, so I just designed it with that in mind. It runs AutoMobile in CLI mode until failure. And then I have Coog integrated for self-healing. I have not tested that part whatsoever because that's too brand new. Like it landed in a couple days ago. Now you get the big live demo, or the second biggest. So what this is going to do is walk you through the Playground app for AutoMobile. And this is part of AutoMobile's source code, and therefore it's testing Playground. Every single interaction on these screens I have been able to automate, except for drag and drop. That's one that's escaping me at the moment, and I'll get there. This next one is going to play the promo video again, so, but that's over my phone, so there's no audio. Now it's going to go over to text and write some funny text. You'll notice that it just switched to ADB keyboard in order to have Unicode compatibility. You cannot normally send Unicode over ADB, and this just seemed like a straightforward solution. In that moment, it detected whether ADB keyboard was installed, installed it, then activated it and switched over to the virtual keyboard in order to write that text on the fly. So if any test needed it, it would just happen in that moment. And now it's just being cute. So back to the slide. Oh, by the way, this is all no hands, not touching it during the entire demo. I'll hold it out here next time, so there's proof. Besides all the things that it has for test authoring already, I also have user credential and experiment treatment handling, because I know A/B testing and log in, log out is a bane of UI testing. Maybe we can skip over some things with deep links, but at the end of the day, you need to authenticate some way, and you need to test A/B tests. Even if you have all of that mocked out, you need some way to parameterize your tests. So to that end, there is a very basic Kotlin DSL and just a string interpolation. I'm actually using it as part of like some of these slides. You can see that here, where I'm interpolating which slide to resume to as part of my talk at the end of the plan. Sorry, that's really tiny, and I don't have time to do something about that right now. This is an example of user credentials with my amazing Hunter 2 password. And this is what an experiment A/B test with this would look like. As you can see, this test does not get long just because you add a lot of functionality or parameterization. I try to keep it as absolutely simple API as possible, and yet extensible. So if you want to do actions before or after, you can. You can use AutoMobile as an annotation to a YAML plan, or you can have it in this Kotlin form, or non-annotation. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's manual and automated testing. And the thing about all of this is, up until this slide, I was showing you just automated testing, like re-executing a plan. So I decided to automate the writing of the test. That is what the Clicked app is for. It writes Kotlin files with Kotlin Poet and public modifier scrubbing. Thank you, Jake Wharton. It's highly configurable to put tests in the right place inside your code base. It doesn't matter if you have one module or 1,000. The configuration's available. I think the top one is the correct one and everything else is wrong, but I'm reasonable and I want to get some feedback of the community of like what works and what doesn't. The root common module of the plurality of composables seems like the best place to put the tests for what you observed during your exploration. And if it's not, just move it. It doesn't have any kind of test update or merging ability yet. So as of right now, it just puts it where it thinks it should go, and then it's up to you for if you want to move it. Now, why is that important that I can do automatic test authoring and I can put it in not just the app module, but anywhere? Number one, it's easier to adopt. If you don't even have to write the test in order to migrate, then yeah, that's easier than learning a new framework and how to write the test with it and how to author it, read the docs. Like if you have to do npm install and then just run it and it writes a test, hopefully that's easier. It also allows for massive parallelization that we haven't been able to achieve with normal Android UI tests with test APKs and Espresso. If they are simple JVM tests, you are not restricted by the app module or various app modules, or needing to put them in demo modules in order to gain parallelization. So this is my vision for where this project is going. I want to have built-in opt-in testing for things like accessibility. I want to automatically measure every single tap target on the screen and immediately fail a test when it doesn't pass. Same with contrast and font legibility. And maybe we'll configure that so that if someone makes a design with a 9-pixel font, you can still configure it to pass. But I think that should fail, because I've gotten too many illegible designs, too many things that were not accessible. Security and privacy testing, that's just not something we do, honestly. as mobile devs. We don't. But if we can get all of this, maybe we should get started on more things that are also important. And performance testing. The way that AutoMobile works with idling is it constantly pulls ADB graphics info, and it gets frame rates, it gets janky frames. I'm constantly logging that performance and improving AutoMobile. There is no reason why I can't say, oh, this test is going to fail because you have too many janky frames. You saw that I could go through video. You saw that I could go through every kind of UI. And it is absolutely possible to make it performant, and therefore it's possible to make assertions through AutoMobile to demand a level of performance. And then we could do constant performance testing. So with all of that, I think we can build a better toolbox. So the status of this is it works on all Android apps today. Any app that's on the Play Store, any app that is a debug APK. Haven't tried Flutter yet. I have tried a React Native app, and you're going to see that soon. It will have iOS support. We're currently working the details out of when and how that will happen. I also want to have parameterization of everything, not just credentials and experiments, but day-night mode, portrait landscape, API levels, input devices. What Stacy was talking about in terms of we need to use our experience and lean into this age with new tools to bring new capabilities, to do other things that we couldn't do before. Yeah, there's people who are just like, AI can like make you a 10x engineer. No, that's not true. But all of a sudden, there are things that were hard before, and they're not anymore. Self-healing will be soon as I figure out Coog and land my pull request there. There's also my Android MCP SDK, which is also open source on GitHub. It exposes view hierarchy, storage network, app resources, and file system. All probably dangerous stuff. So I made it debug only, and you can't build it with a release app, or at least that's the hope. And that's the link. And now for the last live demo. So AutoMobile is going to launch itself right now. It's going to open up Blue Sky. In the background, it also just flips stuff on GitHub. You can go find the link. And it's going to go open my gallery and upload a video as part of the Blue Sky post. Wait, it's supposed to send it. Okay, I'll click that button. One last thing before you clap. Oh, come on. Nope. Okay. Okay. Yay. The only glitch on the last one. Thank you. Any questions? if anybody has questions, feel free to come up to the mic. I don't know how much time I have, but do I have a couple minutes? Okay. And if you want to come by and just talk to me after, I'll be here.